Shalom. Let's start by giving our praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Harakah Kadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Salutations to the Ophalet. That's pushing this truth across four corners of the earth and all faith, truth, and sincerity. I'm one about back again sitting. This we're going to what's been going on with the earthquakes. This not too long just happened, right? So earthquakes that happened today, not just one in one area, but multiple areas. Different countries, and it was one here in the United States. Powerful 7.5 magnitude earthquake hits Venezuela. So that didn't too long just happened, and it was back-to-back earthquakes that hit Venezuela. So you had back-to-back earthquakes that hit Venezuela, 7.1 and 7.5. Then you had a 5.6 earthquake that rattles Northern California. So hey man, we in those times, man. Hey, how about Sunshine ain't playing no games? Them judgment's gonna come down, man. The judgment is just, ain't too long. It was an earthquake I think it was like a month or two ago it happened. I think it was in Japan. If I'm not mistaken, the last time the earthquake, a 7 point something hit, I think it was over there in Japan. If I'm not mistaken, something like that. I forgot. Was it Japan or China? Might be Japan, but it says right here a 6.9 earthquake hits northeastern Japan. No tsunami warning. So, and also a 6.0 earthquake rattles Hawaii's Big Islands. So man, these earthquakes are increasing, man. And like I said, it's gonna come a time where there's gonna be a big, massive earthquake that's gonna hit. Eventually it's gonna a massive earthquake gonna hit here in America, Babylon Great, man. And it's gonna rattle, parts of whether it be California. It's gonna do some damage. Eventually, that massive earthquake is gonna come about. And I'll say if the earthquake do hit the fault line, the fault line, it's gonna be it's gonna be catastrophic. The damage and what it's gonna do. You're gonna have a lot of people. There's gonna be a lot of deaths gonna come about with that. And yeah, man. So, hey, man, we in those times, man. Hey, man. I say, man. I say how about Sunshine gonna have mercy on the elect, man. Everybody else that's not the number, and hopefully I'm probably the number of the elect of the so-called Negro, Latino, of the Israelite, the Israelites, the elect of Israel, hopefully I'm probably the number of the 144,000, 1/3 number, but the rest of Israelites, 2/3, and those that are not gonna have the protection and hedge by loyal Bashashah. Just gonna be, caught up in those judgments, that's gonna come upon them, But yeah, man, we in those times. Let's see, anything else? Let's see, any other earthquakes? Yeah, man. So I'm gonna get some scriptures to back this up. I'll go back. This is Matthew 24:4. And Yahushua answered, saying unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. So, matter of fact, I'll go back. Matthew 24:4. And Jebus, which that's not the name of the Lord. The name of the Lord, the real name of the Lord is Yahushua in the Hebrew. And Jebus answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. Matthew 24:5. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Hamashiach. It's Christ, but it's Hamashiach in Hebrew, and shall deceive many. You have these, people out here, men out here, I say, saying that they are the Lord or whatever. Hey, don't. You have those, they saying I'm the Lord and this and that, whatever. But don't fall for that. And I said the elect of the so-called Negro, Latino, Native Israelites. The elect of the so-called Negro, Latino natives, which are the Israelites, is not gonna fall for that. The elect, of Israel, Israelites is not gonna fall for that. Not gonna be deceived about. Hey, somebody said they calling themselves the Messiah or the Lord. Don't fall for that. But the elect is not gonna fall for that. You might have these simple-minded people out here. When they hear about this guy doing out here, and he's out here, doing miracles or doing things or whatever it may be, right? Calling themselves the Messiah, the Lord, don't fall for that. But like I said the elect of Israel, Israelites is not gonna fall for that. But the rest of these simple-minded, people out here, they'll fall for it. But Matthew 24:6, and you shall hear wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled. All these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. So yeah, and so you got these wars going on. Situation in Iran, U.S. and so forth. Russia and Ukraine, and but the end is not yet. Like World War III. Eventually, it's gonna happen. Like I say, it's gonna come about. Like I said, Russia and China, North Korea. They're gonna get involved. It's gonna come. But it might not seem like it's not going to, but it will. It will. But in this verse, Matthew 24:7, for nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, and pestilences, and earthquakes, in diverse places. So the nation can rise against nation. Like you gonna have, so-called Negro, Latino natives, which are Israelites, and the so-called white people, red, white devils, are gonna be going at each other. You got that going on now. It's gonna intensify though. And then let's say you got these other countries, kingdoms, nations are going at these other kingdoms of nations going at each other. Like I say, United States, Iran, so forth. But there shall be famines. We're gonna have the famine, lack of food, lack of resources, and stuff gonna come about. Pestilences, these different diseases, and people getting sick, dying from these pestilences. That's gonna happen more. And like I say, I just read they went into about those earthquakes today. So these earthquakes are coming about more and more, man. These earthquakes are increasing. So like I say, man, the famine is gonna increase, the pestilence is gonna increase, the earthquakes are increasing. It ain't gonna slow down. Like I say, Yahweh Shai, he's a Lord Yahweh Shai, is true to his word. The prophecies of the Bible is gonna come to pass, it's gonna happen, man. Things are happening now. But like I say, it's gonna intensify, man. A lot of things gonna take a lot of people off guard. They think that everything gonna be okay, but it's gonna be one day where everything is, like I say, it's gonna come to a stopping, an end. Like things gonna change, for a lot of people. Like I said, a major disaster, a major earthquake within a city, in the United States or whatever, is gonna bring down buildings, or a major disaster, or some type of lockdown, a major situation happening in the cities of, where it may be, right? All out chaos in the streets, however that comes about, like I said, that could be, like I said, this economy crashing, people ain't got no money, so forth, man, so, No, we in those times, man. So go to the next verse, Matthew 24:8. All these are the beginning of sorrow. So all that what's going on right now is the beginning of sorrow. So it's going to increase though. No, I said it's not gonna slow down. I said Yahweh Bahasham Shah is gonna bring these prophecies to come to pass, and it's not gonna slow down. It's not gonna stop. The apostles and the elders and brother great millstone that teach us truth. In the spirit of the Lord Yahweh Bahasham Shah is gonna, it's telling you the truth. Excuse me, it's giving you the truth. In the spirit of the Lord Yahweh Bahasham Shah, giving you understanding of the word and the prophecy, warning you about what's about to come before it happens. That's a true prophet. A true prophet is not gonna, not gonna sugarcoat, not gonna sugarcoat the truth and not really give you, not really heed you of the warning of impending doom that the Lord Yahweh Bahasham Yahushua is gonna bring upon this place, America, Babylon Great, because you got these other Israelite camps. They not warning you. They tell you you're gonna be okay and this and that, but it's not. America is gonna be okay. The Lord is with America. Whatever they saying, to try to make you feel good about, the future of America, of this wicked kingdom, right? But that's not the case. The Lord Yahweh is going to destroy this place, America, Babylon the Great. And these satellite Israelites that teaching you these false doctrine and adding on to the word and taking away from the word, they're gonna be destroyed, man. Revelation 22, 17 on down. Revelation chapter 22, 17 on down, right? It goes into that, man. You take away from, we add or take away from the word, Lord Yahweh Bahasham Shah gonna destroy you, and that's gonna come about too. A lot of so-called Negro, Latino Israelites, these false leaders and so forth, Lord Yahweh Bahasham Shah gonna bring judgment upon them. Their judgment, is gonna be set for them, and the Lord Yahweh Bahasham Shah is gonna have mercy on the elect, the men of the Lord that's correctly teaching the truth and warning you, of the, impending disasters, and the death and destruction that gonna come upon America, Babylon the Great. Lord Yahushua gonna have mercy on the elect, the men of the Lord, and I said 1/3, he gonna have mercy on the elect of Israelites, but 2/3 are Israelites, and hopefully not part of righteous number of the elect, but 2/3 Israelites, like I say, those that these false prophets and Israelites out here just doing wickedly and not repenting and doing whatever, Yahweh Bahasham Shah, gonna have judgment, set up for them, even though like I say they might be, they might be having fun doing this and that right now, but it's gonna come a time where, hey, Yahweh Bahasham Shah gonna bring those horrific judgment upon them, for not repenting and not believing in the truth of Lord Yahweh Bahasham Shah, or not taking heed to the warning, but not taking heed to the warning by the apostles and the elders, brother great millstone, you're gonna have those Israelites, that's gonna, Yahweh Shah gonna bring, his judgment upon, but with that, I didn't want to make this too long. Hope this was edifying. So again, I'd like to give our praise and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shah Bahasham, Harakakadash, to the apostle elders, to the Sasakan brothers, to the few Akwaf sisters that do listen, keep the faith in Yahweh Shah, keep fighting with that. Say shalom.